All right. Hey, guys. We are here at LEGO headquarters for Fan Media Days. I would love for you guys to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about what your role is at LEGO and this great Iron Man set.
Welcome.
My name is Petra, and I'm a model designer for superheroes.
My name's Mark. I've been a LEGO designer for 18 years now, and I'm a senior designer on the LEGO Superheroes team.
Awesome.
And for Petra's first LEGO set, I was the mentor.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
This is so exciting. It's your first set.
Yeah, it is.
Awesome. Well, this is definitely new. We've had helmets in the LEGO Superheroes collection before, but not necessarily a bust quite like this. Of course, there was the Black Panther bust, which was yours, Mark.
Yes.
Did the Black Panther bust concept influence the birth of this concept at all?
Not really. No. It was a very different scale, no, I don't think so. Although, did it?
I don't think so. I mean, the previous person who we're also interviewing were asking a similar question, but I think that's the first time we hear it in that consensus.
Yeah.
At least for me. So, in any way, I think like previous models should have impact on what we do in the future, of course. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Where did the idea come from then?
It came from one of our other designers, Tim, who built this as a sketch idea.
Wow. Yeah, and you can see how the evolution went. If it's okay, there are actually a lot of models over here. If you could kind of cycle them through.
Sure.
If there's an order of development, that'd be fascinating to see
right, yeah.
too.
This was the first concept. This was Tim's model, and the idea was liked. I think we didn't know exactly how it would look, right? So a whole bunch of us built versions of the head. This was actually the one by me, and Petra made one. Tim made another one. Junior made one. Who else?
Grabowski made.
Adam Grabowski,
Yeah.
he made a version. We had a whole bunch. Some were 6 wide, some were 4 wide, like this. And basically, as it was going to be Petra's first set that she worked on, she got to choose which ones we would bring together. And this was a very early one. Both of these actually were around the same time.
Wow.
When we were bringing together, you can see this was the development of the one I'd done, and this was a version of Tim's head, which is the one I think we actually chose to take forward. And we started bringing them together, and this version here, which is in a more comic book colour
Yeah.
version, was about a third of the way in when we started with angles and stuff and trying to make this look as close to how Robert Downey Jr.'s suit looks as possible.
And it's fascinating for the viewers out there to see how on this model
I was just
the
about to
shoulder
point it out.
pieces are hand painted.
So I was wondering
and
how long the
colored.
development cycle
Yeah.
was, because obviously we got those with the Iron Man figure, but that must mean that was before that was produced.
Yes, I mean there's a lot of pieces here which
Wow.
are spray painted. I don't know what to say about that. Yeah, that's fairly common. We have a room full of paints at LEGO, a spray room, and they are specifically mixed by a paint company to be the colours that match the LEGO bricks. So we can go and spray things all the time. In fact, we do often go and spray things.
Fascinating. And it's cool to see too that maybe by the time you got to this one, that piece does exist in red now because of the Spider-Man figure. So that kind of gives you a timeline of how, long this may or may not have been worked on. It's really fascinating.
That's true. I think it's also interesting how like the body is evolving during the time, like going from this model where it shows quite a lot of the body to these versions where it's very slimmed down,
Yeah.
and just trying to find the balance of what works, like how much of the shoulder should we show, and yeah.
Something else that was fascinating during the reveal you guys did earlier today is that this version, which of course is not the final version, but pretty close to it,
Yeah.
it could evolve still from what we're seeing on camera right now.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. as we can see too, there's the one right behind it that has the Sharpied in Mark III. At what point in conversation did the minifigure element get added into the final set? Because of course we've had helmets before, and Star Wars has had helmets as well. Never came with minifigures, and I've said for years the one thing about the helmet series is it would be so cool to include a minifigure, and I literally cannot thank you guys enough for thinking of the fans enough to include that here. So was that something that you were championing from the beginning, or once this got some steam you're like, hey, we can actually put minifigs in here in these sorts of sets?
As I remember it, it wasn't in the beginning. Like, we tried different stands and just like focused on how should we build it. Like, should we do it similar to what already exists, or should we go a new way? And with our creative lead, I remember saying like we should try something new. And then during that process, I think somewhere along the way, the minifigure.
Well, I don't know. It's here on the first sketch, but as you can see, it's not on this version. So at that point, we weren't thinking about it. By the time we started bringing them together, we do have him back. So I think from fairly early on, I think the minifigure was decided to be there. And I seem to remember it was because there'd been a lot of feedback about no minifigures in the helmets.
Well, on behalf of all the superheroes fans out there, thank you so much for listening to us and thinking of us, because that is, I don't want to say a pain point, but it is something that's been in conversation since that first Iron Man helmet years ago. So, thank you.
I did, so...
Yes.
And I wish I'd had some of these shapes, and somebody like Petra telling me when I got it wrong as well.
So how long have you been working for Lego?
Only for a bit more than 6 months.
Wow, okay.
Wow. That's incredible.
What an incredible first model. I mean, this must have been a really exciting project for you to just jump on immediately.
Yeah, it was definitely, and I don't really have that much building experience from before. I come from a designer background, so just approaching this in a different way, and I had to, of course, collaborate a lot with my colleagues who are really great builders, but I think just pushing our heads together on this was really, really interesting.
That's awesome.
It was so much fun for me because I got stuck in a rut of like, this is how you build Lego. And Petra coming in with just designer eyes and saying, well, no, this needs to be this much lower. And I'm like, that's half a plate. How do I do half a plate lower? And it's like, and then I'm like, I could, if we built that bit upside down, then maybe we could do that.
Right.
And that was the thing. And my building skills were pushed so hard by Petra's vision. And I really had so much fun doing this.
That is so cool.
Is this the first time that you've been a mentor to a designer before? Or?
No, I've been mentored to many designers.
But Petra's just special. So brought a new perspective in.
Something here clicked in the design process for this model.
Nice.
Of being pushed. I think it was quite, you've only been here 6 months, and this is basically the final model. So it did have quite a short turnaround, and that might have been part of it.
That's incredible. Well, earlier during the reveal, you had alluded to the fact that this could potentially kick off a series of busts like this. Needless to say, you also mentioned that doing face characters would be a whole nother level of difficulty. Yeah, it would be so fascinating to see how you could tackle that.
Good luck.
Yeah, honestly.
If you have a solution, please let me know.
Oh, great. I sure will.
Because it's difficult, being only 4 wide, and then you've got a nose. Yeah, that makes things very challenging.
And then you have characters like Spider-Man, who has a pretty rounded head that would work, but then you have to think about the webbing, and would you do printed pieces for that? We got that Spider-Man helmet that had some printed webbing, but not all. Yeah,
the helmets allow you to have either stickers or prints that will allow you to do the webbing. When you get down to this scale, what would you do? And that's
so many small pieces.
But that's the thing. When decisions were made on this, it was always in the back of my mind, and I think yours as well, that this was going to be, this had potential to be more. And it will be.
Oh, how exciting.
Right.
That's about all I can say on that.
It does lead me down another train of thought. And, thinking of characters who have mask and, I suppose, shoulder proportions that would lend themselves well to this, I can't help but think about Deadpool. And I also can't help but think that we haven't gotten Deadpool in any Lego media in years. And I'm just curious if that's more of like a Lego decision to not go around Deadpool, or does Marvel say that? Is there any kind of conversation that's had as to why Deadpool has made a disappearance?
I can't talk for Disney, so whatever the discussions have been, and again, we're personally not involved in those discussions. Deadpool is difficult for us because his iconic movies, they're world's best ever selling 18 plus movie and stuff. They are all 18 plus,
right.
Which makes it very difficult for Lego to approach. There are things within those movies we don't want kids to be watching. From a Lego point of view, and I think even Disney don't want watching some of it.
Yeah.
But and I really love those movies. And Deadpool himself as a character in the comic books is also quite ruthless, but so funny, and sometimes he plays for jokes, and it would be nice to do one of those Deadpools, but as long as the most iconic one is 18 plus, it's going to be difficult for us.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I don't think that any Lego fans out there, can't grasp why that's the case. I think it's just so many people want him,
I know, and we have done a Deadpool figure in the past.
Yeah.
But it was before his first movie came out, when Deadpool was the iconic version of Deadpool was the comic one. It wasn't the swearing, murdering,
yes,
or whatever he does in the movie. Well, I know what he does in the movie.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you shedding some light on it, because I know it's not exactly the easiest thing to talk about from your standpoint, but the fans, I guarantee you, really appreciate hearing that perspective. So thank
if
you.
Ryan Reynolds sees this on the internet, it would be great if he did a really kid-friendly Christmas version of Deadpool. Just to,
The Deadpool advent calendar.
That would be great.
If there's a really fluffy, friendly, non-violent Deadpool that becomes really popular, that would be great for us.
Well, hopefully if they include him in some of the Avengers movies or Secret
Wars,
Wars,
he's in Secret Wars, and he's not, that bit of the movie isn't just
this 15-minute segment is R-rated, and then the rest of the movies,
exactly,
right?
Well, that's awesome. And again, I really appreciate you shedding some light on that.
It is difficult to say because it's outside of a normal designer's decision making. I mean, I love Deadpool. I'd love to put him in a set. I wanted him in the Bugle, but it's
well, you and I, this is our third year speaking at Fan Media Days, and it's always a pleasure. I remember in our very first conversation, we were talking about some of the more obscure characters like DC and even X-Men at that point. We really hadn't gotten much X-Men again. Of course, X-Men being on the horizon, we've got the X-Men 97 X-Jet. I'm just curious, as a longtime X-Men fan and designer, how it feels to finally see those characters that you mentioned all those years ago back on store shelves.
Every time we get a test print in, I'm all over it. At Justin's desk saying, we've got who? Gambit now?
Yeah.
It's like, why isn't Jubilee in this? All of this stuff. Obviously, yes, I'm all over it. And I'd love. I still want. If I can get Legion of Superheroes into something, that's my.
Yes.
That would be right up there with getting Daredevil into something.
And hey, you already did that. So
exactly. Yes.
Anything can happen.
That's it. If I can get Saturn Girl, Cosmic Boy.
Yes.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Well, to that point, when we spoke in 2022, we talked about DC and some of the struggles of getting non-Batman characters in sets. Would you say the lay of the land is still the same? Do you have any new perspective on that as the years have gone by?
I'm really, really hoping next year's Superman is amazing and launches DC into a new realm. Yes, I love that, because then it's not all Batman, or Batman adjacent, which is currently what we've got. I'd love to do something DC with a whole load of characters.
Yeah. And just to refresh the audience that's watching this that may not have seen our interview from years ago, you had mentioned that the idea is that when there isn't DC media for general audiences to consume on big screens, it makes it difficult to rationalize doing Lego sets. Is that a good read of how things are?
Roughly. I mean, it is. Marvel currently is much more popular. and that means we're going to cater to those people more than we do the DC people, the DC fans. Sorry. I'm hopeful. I mean, every James Gunn superhero movie has been amazing, so
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's going to be amazing. So
His track record is pretty spot on.
yes, yeah, it is. So we'll see.
Well, as fans on the other side, knowing that you're championing, DC characters we haven't gotten,
Not
and
just me.
even
There's
more
plenty
obscure.
of DC fans in Lego superheroes.
Well, it's good to know, and it helps us hold on hope. With you being new to Lego and being on the superheroes team now, I'd love to hear your perspective of, were you a Lego superheroes fan before coming into the position you are now at Lego? Are you becoming more of a fan? Tell us a little bit more about your journey.
Yeah, I wasn't really a superhero fan when I joined, and I think I actually upset some of my colleagues with my no knowledge of the superheroes.
Not me. I find it funny.
Yeah, I think one colleague, Yaga, for instance, said that he almost had a heart attack when I didn't. It was, of course, a joke. But I think I bring another perspective to it, and just like being from the outside, I can see it from another view, and I think that brings a lot of value, and I'm learning so much because my colleagues have so much knowledge.
Yeah.
And I haven't actually seen most of the Marvel and DC movies, so that's all like a big treat for me now. Yeah, and it's really, really funny.
We have been educating you.
Yeah, in so many ways, both in the building system and also in the Marvel and DC universe. So
Nobody likes taking work home, but I bet yours is pretty fun considering it's getting to watch MCU movies.
yeah, it's super, super fun.
That's exciting. So, when you're working on a project like this, is this kind of consuming your world? Like you're just working on this project, or are you, touching base on other things as you get started in your Lego journey? How does that work?
For this particular one, it was focusing only on this. I think it would have been too much when you're new to have other things as well, but the more familiar you get with the process, the design process and the building system and stuff, I think it could be nice to just bounce on and off between different models that you're working on. Definitely. But
Yeah.
for this particular one, it has only been this as my main focus.
But whilst you were working on this, you were doing all of the training courses for starting as a Lego designer.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
very true. Yeah.
Wow, that's so exciting. Is there a dream theme that you'd like to
So
work on
that's that
someday?
too.
That's a really interesting question. I think it hasn't been yet because for me it's just like the best thing is creating something new and out of the box, and and also just like seeing like during the kids test, for instance, when you see the kids playing with the model, that's so amazing. But I don't really have a theme yet, but if we will talk in the future, then hopefully that will be the case. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
That makes me excited to see where your career could go at Lego.
Yeah, and also I haven't finished all of the movies yet, so when I have, then I will.
Yes.
What's been your favorite so far?
I would definitely say Iron Man.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. I love that. I love that we're kind of having a Lego superhero renaissance lately. It feels like this year, of course, we're speaking in 2024. This video probably won't come out for quite some time yet.
I think June the 1st is currently your embargo, because that's when this comes out. I believe that might shift for you, but
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, for those of you watching now, the X-Men mansion was just revealed. So that puts you in the timeline to think about what's out right now. With that being said, though, we've been on such a great upswing with Marvel sets and DC with Batman, the animated series, the Skyline, everything like that. What involvement have you had, Mark, with the sets we've gotten maybe over the last year and a half? Which ones have your thumbprints on them?
I would love to say all of this upswing has been me, but I was actually on Dungeons and Dragons for a good chunk of that, so it was because I wasn't there, maybe, that it all...
Well, to be fair, Dungeons and Dragons is rocking too, so...
Well, thank you.
And I know that's a dream project for you. I remember you mentioning
100%,
D&D
yes.
the first time we spoke.
So happy to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything from your side?
upsprings in.
Yeah, it's because this is all. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you on that one. It's great to see what.
Do you have a
superheroes
favorite
do.
set that's out now, being a superhero fan yourself?
The last superhero set I bought was the Skyline, but I
Okay.
haven't built it yet. I just it's in the area, in the superheroes area, and has been for various points for the last year and a half, and I'm just like, I'd quite like that at home as well. So,
Yeah, I bet after looking at it for so long.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
because eventually it'll go away from our area.
Sure.
But it won't go away from my house unless I
That's
can
right.
it or something. Yeah.
So, being that you're working on this Iron Man, are you back to superheroes now?
I am on. I was never off superheroes. It
Oh.
was just I was on loan to Lego Ideas.
I see.
Much like the last time I did Lego Ideas, I was just on loan from what was it? Nexa Nights, I think.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. For those watching, if you have not looked up Mark's list of
Yeah.
sets he's worked on, I mean,
Exoforce Chima, the Mammoth Stomper. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love that set
the
so much.
Agent's truck. I mean, it's like,
It's all the sets I grew up on. Like
Yeah.
I just,
Thank you. You make
those
me
are
do
my
very
favorites.
well.
Oh,
But no, I mentioned that to you in our very first conversation that I look at my Lego journey and so many of your sets are just touch points of my life of building and collecting, and just can't be more grateful for the awesome work you've put out for all of us to enjoy over the years.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not much else to say on that one. Thanks.
Whoa, with the light brick.
I just noticed that. Yeah,
That's
so that
very
was a
cool.
consideration.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sadly.
we also tried like glow in the dark for this element in the eyes, but it just didn't really look that good as we were
Yeah.
hoping for. So, but it was something we at least iterated on.
Fascinating. Yeah, so you've been working on this set for ages. You see
Well,
it.
Not more than 6 months.
Not you, but
But no,
so was it in development before you joined? I presume, or did this
was
just?
this done before you started, or was this done around the time?
No, I think it was when I started, the process started as well.
Yeah, I don't remember anything much before we started on it. I think this was only built a few weeks before it was given the go-ahead to become a set. And it was initially handed to me, but as I just started mentoring Petra, I handed it off.
That is so cool. Look how the eyes have like that little blue
Yeah.
ledge underneath.
That's cool.
That's so cool. Wow. Well, since I have you here, in D&D is on the rise too. What has that been like to work on D&D? I mean, I know it's something you've dreamed of for all these years.
Again, it was incredibly collaborative. Like Petra talks about this as not being her model. D&D was because you fight them. D&D wasn't my model. It was Chris, and it was Wes, and it was Jordan, and everybody else on that team, the graphic designer. Everybody gave so much input, and in actual fact, virtually everybody who has played D&D at Lego at some point came and built
Came
something.
onto-
I basically I had all of the animals that we could put all of the D&D creatures on
Yeah.
the table
Grabbing random weird
in
pieces.
A3
It's a
one.
smart policy.
And a load of designers came down and said, "Oh, I think I can build this and that." And so one of my players, Alice, built the first version of
Oh, wow.
the owlbear, for example, and that came through. And another Ilya, he built the first gelatinous cube. So it was like all of the D&D players at Lego wanted in on this.
It's cool to know there were a lot of chefs in the kitchen cooking on that one.
It was more like I was the chef and everybody else was just coming and dumping in, like anything that looked tasty, and then
I'd say it worked.
Picked some bits out that looked good.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, thank
Awesome. We'll talk to you next year.
Thank you.
you. I
Yeah.
hope so. I look forward to it.